All right, welcome to this presentation on the gene keys. And I had the reason why I want to do this periodically, I've done a couple of presentations before, is because I find that this is a subject which has really captivated me of, since I learned SRT many years ago. And in the practice of SRT and in the practice of in doing it and using it for myself as well as for others, I find that there is a depth here that is worth pursuing. So along comes Gene Keys. Last year, mid last year, sometime when I started the study of this particular thing, this is I find this is one thing that sort of adds to what I have been practicing up until now, gives it a depth, a deeper meaning. And that is why I am so excited to, invite people and tell them, hey, this is something you might want to look at, especially people who are kind of wanting to go deeper into the spiritual aspect of life, of self-realization, self-knowledge, because that's what the gene keys are all about. So with that, let me, what I'd like to say is that I have about a maybe 20, 25-minute presentation just to give you an overview of the whole story. And then we'll open up to answering questions that you may have. My intention is to go for, not more than an hour, maybe 75 minutes on the outside. So let's do that. I will start, the first question, of course, comes to your mind is what is this gene keys? So let me just show you, I'm going to share screen and show you exactly, not me, but the founder, the person who actually founded this says about the gene keys. And the gentleman's name is Richard Rudd, and he is a poet. So he says that the gene keys are the universal codes of life, translated into a language that you can understand and resonate with. The gene keys connect us to the unchanging truth of the 64 archetypal and universal attributes of consciousness, representing the code of life which is present in each of the trillion of cells in our body. Each gene key is a portal to an inner being. So the gene keys is directly connected with universal consciousness. And so it is all about consciousness, it's about creation, and it is about its relationship to us, human beings here on earth in our physical bodies. So the 64 gene keys are the letters of the language of life, a language which is present in the codes of the DNA and known to humanity through the I-Ching. So the origin, the genesis of this body of knowledge is the I-Ching, which is at the base of certainly a lot of Chinese philosophy, the Tao Te Ching, and what Lao Tzu taught. And it is the underlying principles of the I Ching is in the Chinese traditional medicine. The meridian system, if we do the acupressure, acupuncture, which is relating to the body and the body's relationship with the rest of the universe. So this, to my mind, is something which is deeply inherent within our heart. We want to know more about this, and therefore the attraction. And this is the other part, which also Richard Rudd says, is that the gene keys are neither science nor pseudoscience. So it is the scientific, there are smatterings of connection with science, but you can't explain the whole thing as a science. They are represented as a poetic exploration into consciousness that uses the 64 codons of DNA as a mystical metaphor of the holographic codes underpinning all life. I mean, that's a big old sentence. So let's just move from there. I think what is critical over here, it talks about DNA. So when we are talking gene keys, there is in our DNA, in the trillions of cells in our DNA, these keys are resident in every cell of the body. And what they're talking about codons are a section of the DNA made up of three base pairs of codes, which codes the amino acids comprising our chemistry. So it has a direct link. This universal consciousness has a direct link to this physical body and the chemistry inside the body that works with us. And the 64 codons correspond to 64 I-Ching hexagrams. So if you are familiar with I-Ching, let me just go into that sphere for a moment. I'm going to stop sharing this right now. So most of us, of course, if you are of Chinese background, you are much more familiar with the I-Ching. But mostly around the world, we have known I-Ching as popularly as oracles. So like, you have a question in your mind, you pick an I-Ching card and look at it, and it tells you something about life, what is happening, what is about to happen, what are the forces surrounding you. And we have kind of treated it like an oracle, which you cannot explain scientifically. There are it's not exact science. That is the popular understanding of I-Ching. But then there is a deeper study of I-Ching. So let me just show you one slide here. These are hexagrams, means each of these have 6 lines. And the I-Ching comprises 64 of such hexagrams. And every hexagram, if you look at closely, has a full line, one or multiple full lines, and one or multiple half lines. And what I understood from the little talk my friend gave me is that the I-Ching combine masculine and feminine energy. Right at the source of creation, where the polarity begins, there is a movement, there is masculine and there is the feminine, which is also depicted in the yin and the yang, the dark and the white. So the masculine is the part that comes from source, and the feminine, which connects us to the earth. And every I-Ching will have both or one of this. Excuse me, where did you? Here we are. So, and depending, if you look at this particular, the first hexagram right here, it has got 5 half lines and 1 full line. So right at the base is the masculine, and then the positioning of all of these other are related to what they call the 5 elements in the traditional Chinese understanding of I-Ching. And then, there is one key, one I-Ching, which has got all masculine. All 6 lines are full lines. And there'll be one which is all feminine. And given that these are 6 lines, and given that there are combinations of the half lines and the full lines, there are 64 possible hexagrams that can be generated. And those correspond to the 64 gene keys. And interestingly enough, they also correspond to the 64 codons of the whole DNA formulation. So if you were to sort of contemplate that, it is a kind of telling us that everything, this body of ours and everything that comes to us has a direct connection to source energy, whether you want to call it the Shiva and the Shakti, or that is where the polarity starts, right? On the yang and the yin, it begins there, and then it sort of comes down to this place here in this body, where all these elements, the fire, the water, the earth, the elements sort of combine in multiple combinations and permutations to allow this body to come to be. And and then this is what we come with. And then of course we live our life, we allow this is the seed which comes, and then we allow this to grow and blossom, and we become who we are. Now, the fascinating part, one of the fascinating parts of the 64 gene keys is that each one of us has 13 keys which are unique to us. And these 13 keys are placed like, if in the ocean of consciousness and we are traveling, we are voyagers, there are certain locations, and these are the 13 locations where it's like, oh, you can stop there and there's a key waiting there for you, which will open up another aspect of yourself, which gives you an inner understanding of who you are, what are you here about, and then you can, absorb that, integrate with that, and proceed to the next part. So you probably noticed that in my announcement is that you can create a personal profile for yourself, which identifies these 13 keys. So there are 64 gene keys, of which there are a few which is relevant to us. Now, this whole study body of gene keys is also a synthesis of several other bodies of knowledge as humankind has grown and come into where we are today. There's always been a search, whether it's coming from the scientific, from the mind, from the spiritual, from whichever direction, this quest that we have within our hearts, we want to know more about who we are, why are we here, where have we come from, what is going to be, etc. So direct connection to this study are things like, of course, the I-Ching, and then we have the Kabbalah, the human design, astrology, and of course, in recent times, since in the last 70 years, we've learned about the DNA, all that kind of is a part of this knowledge, it's all come together in this melting pot, if you will, which has become what is known as the gene keys. So I have here a little quick chart, which I want to also show you. Which gives you actually this I just downloaded from Google. If you go in and search for the 64 gene keys of a spectrum of consciousness, this thing will show up. So what this shows you is all the 64, and there are certain words right next to it. And before I tell you what the words are about, let me just go back a step and tell you, as I said, think of these in several parts as we are doing life. We have 13 of these keys placed, which we can open up and see what they are. They carry a certain energy. That's what it's vibration. It's all energetic. It's vibrational. But that vibration has a very deep meaning in our life and how it unfolds in our life. And every key actually operates on a spectrum. So think of every key like a seed. So when you plant a seed, and we've all done that, when we plant a seed, there is a casing on top, right? And we are planting the seed has never been there. And once it is placed in a particular environment, it has to come out of that casing in order to do what it does. So once we come into this physical body, we have to move through this unfamiliar surrounding We have not been here before, and we have to start getting comfortable before we can actually become that thing, the plant or the fruit that we are supposed to be. So think of the plant. So initially, there is a lot of hesitation. There is a lot of fear. There is a lot of, we don't know exactly where the power lies. And so the first part of our lives, which is the first 21 years actually, first 3 7-year cycles, is when we build all that. And in that period, usually we are operating from the shadow. So when you look at this particular thing, you will see the 3 columns. The left-hand column, which is kind of orangish, greenish, is the shadow vibration of that. So if you're looking at every key has 3 bands of vibration, the shadow is the part of us where we begin, where we are not too sure. We are still in finding our power. We still believe that the power lies outside of us, and there's a lot of fear. But within that shadow's place, if we are able to move through that, is the gift. This is the plant, I'm a mango tree. So here I am being a mango tree. That is the gift which we have come here to share. And most of us, willy-nilly will find that in some way or another. Unless we are deeply fearful, then we keep going back to the shadow. And when we are able to really share that gift and master that gift, that is what becomes what in this system he calls the siddhi. And we know the Sanskrit word siddhi means fulfillment, reward, like mastery. The siddha is somebody who has explored all of that and has got everything that it has to go. So you think of it like the fruit of that seed that it has come to be. So there are 64 possibilities, and each one, just to give you a couple of examples over here. Here is one called number 8. The shadow is mediocrity. The gift is style, and the siddhi is exquisiteness. So now think of it, mediocrity, somebody can be stuck in a shadow and be caught up in mediocrity. But if one has the energy and the desire to move past it, it will translate into great style, because style is anything but mediocre, right? And when that style is really expanded, it becomes exquisite. I mean, the finer points become visible. So every one of these shadows has got all 3 possible areas. And the beauty of it is that what happens is that we all have, we are somewhere in that spectrum in different aspects of our lives, but we are always trying to run away from the shadow part or hide it or do something. But this system tells you that shadow is actually very important, because within that is the possibility of your gift and your siddhi. So I'm going to stop here just for a moment. And if we have any questions at this stage, and then we will move into the area of, what is the personal profile and so on.
Yeah, that was the question I was. This is Arun.
Yeah, Arun, go ahead.
How do we find our 13 unique keys?
Yeah, that is absolutely the central piece of this. We will certainly come there. Anything else which is related thus far? I have some friends who have I-Ching background. There is Monica and Ling Ann and Liz. Any of you want to shed any other light so far? Chakradhar, you have a question? Go ahead.
So I've played with I-Ching a lot. 25 years ago, when I was confused and I needed to have some answers, and I-Ching was very helpful. I'm not able to, so when we do that hexagrams, how does that relate to my intrinsic gene key?
Okay, thank you for that. Yes, I'll come to that. I know Arun's question was, what are my gene keys? And you're saying that how does it relate to the hexagram? Yeah, thank you. We'll come to that. Anybody else? You can put your hand out, right? Thank you.
Malabika, I sent you a message.
You did? Why don't you tell me what it is? 11 keys for our personal, not 13? I may be wrong. Take a look at your hexagram, your personal profile, and some of them operate as a dual.
Right.
Okay. All right. Welcome. Thank you. All right. Should I continue? Very good. So let us address this question. So what are my personal 13 or 11, whichever is the right number? We will find out in a moment. How do I find that? What happens is that if you go to the, I shared in my announcement a link to a Gene Keys website. Okay, now you can go and look at Gene Keys, and of course the website will come up. But this particular one that I sent you, it's connected through me. So because I'm an affiliate of the system, so it'll be very wonderful if you went through there, because anything you do there, I get some brownie points, and that's very nice. So let me actually show you on the screen how it looks when you go to that place, okay? Okay, so if you were to go in and click on that, it's genekeys.com, and I'm going to send it to you again when I send you a link to this recording. It has a reference, it's a 899 reference to my affiliate link. When you go there, this is what you'll see, first of all. This gentleman, his name is Richard Rudd, and he will give you a little spiel on this whole Gene Keys thing. And he's not a scientist. He's a poet, and he is studied literature. But he tells a little story. If we have time, I'm happy to share that with you as to how this knowledge came to him. And we'll come to that later. So when you go to this page, there is on top something called free profile. When you go into that free profile page, they will ask you for your date of birth and your place of birth, your date, place, and time of birth. When you fill that in, it will produce for you a personal profile. Now let me pull up my profile so you can see what it looks like. Okay, here we are. So it will look like this. It'll have your name right there on top, and it'll have, let's see, how many keys? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. You're right, Ling An. I'm sorry, I changed my perspective. I don't know where I got those extra 2. So 11 gene keys, which are unique to you. So each of these gene keys, as you will see on this, has got a number. So that first one right on top at 12 o'clock is the key, which is called life's work. And life's work has, in my case, it is 52, and there is a point number. The key is actually number 52, and the 6 is the line. So the question I think Chakradhar you asked is that where is the link? So if you are able to see this on this screen and a kind of, if you can enlarge it, you will see there is the keys around here the 64 I-Ching hexagrams are all around this particular circle. And this one, number 52, corresponds with one of these. So when you study this, and if we get into a deeper study, it'll show you. It will show you that particular key, and it will show you where are those full lines and where are those half lines, because from those combination of the full lines and the half lines, this vibrational frequency has been determined. So in my case, in my life's work, and this is the very first key, seed that we land here with, the shadow is stress. The gift is gift of restraint, which means you don't have to jump to everything. Just keep that restraint and it comes to you. And the siddhi, ultimate goal of this particular key, is stillness. So it's really sort of going into the depth, into the center of creation, where stillness is, what we call Satchidananda. So that is kind of the bliss. And my second one, which is, there is a direct connection between the first and the second key. The gift, the siddhi of that is bliss. So here I am looking for bliss and stillness, nowhere near it yet, but that is kind of the direction. So this will give you, let me just also tell you, when you are taking this, doing this for yourself, which you I'm sure will do, look on the right-hand side of that screen. I'm trying to show you over here. Look on the right-hand side, you will find, there is a little thing with many blue keys. Make sure that all of those keys are on. Then you will get the whole story. Otherwise, you will only get partial stories. Okay. Now, how are you going to get familiar with this? That will be your next question, I'm sure. What you're going to do is, if you look, this entire this is called your hologenetic profile, and there is these 11 keys that we are looking at. We kind of delve into it in 3 stages. And the first stage of that is called the activation sequence. And let me show you what that means. Here, this is my activation sequence. So there are 4 keys: the life's work, the evolution, the authority of the radiance, and the purpose. These are 4 fundamental keys, which is like the hull of the ship, if you will. So that is established there. You're going to do the rest of your life based on the vibrations of these 4. And whatever the shadow and the gift are there, of course, we start off with that, and we very soon learn to manage that, right? We can't do life without managing those. And then as we move forward and doing other stuff in our life, we have to keep coming back here and making sure that those shadows have not crept back in. So these are the 4. That's our first journey, and it is called the genius, activation of the genius part of us. So when you download your profile, the first page will give you understanding, a sort of a paragraph on each of this. That comes. I mean, you don't have to invest anything further on that. That's the kind of thing that you will already understand. Now, once we have had a chance to really understand what this is saying and how it affects me, then we come to what is called the Venus sequence, and it's right here. The next 6 keys are our Venus sequence. Now, this is about relationships. Not that these are sequential. Of course, it's like flowers. You can have the flower blooming all over the plant. But the learning, or our as we are doing life and we are relating, this first 7 year cycle, we create our spiritual quotient, this one right in the center over here, because that's where our deeper spiritual needs and identity and all of that is playing out. The next 7 year cycle develops our emotional quotient. That's this key right over here. The third 7 year cycle develops our intelligence quotient, which is right here on this left hand side. And based on all these three, I mean, there is a core, which is a fundamental one. We'll come to that again. Based on all these three, we kind of create for ourselves an identity of who we are. And that identity that we create, which is a combination of these vibrations of the gene keys, creates an attraction key. So what we bring into our lives will be attracted by this particular key. And that actually develops from the purpose. This is our life's purpose. What have we come here to do? And I think the reason why I said 13 is because this particular key belongs to both those journeys, the genius as well as the Venus sequence. So that's the second set, if you will, of study. And the third journey is called the Pearl, and that's the last one. This is that, once we have been able to kind of work through all the shadows in these earlier parts, we are at a place where the abundance of the universe becomes available to us. There is ultimate abundance, whether it's happiness, whether it's money, whether it's creative potential, whether it is creativity, whatever it is that we have come here to do, that brings to us exactly everything that we need in order to live a deeply fulfilling, abundant life. And these last four, which I have to say, I'm pretty new to this yet, because I'm still moving towards that, are called the Pearl and the Culture, and I really wouldn't be able to tell you more. But that's the third part of the journey. So we start with the first part. And also, let me stop here so that you can ask your questions, and then I'll tell you the next part. Anybody? So let me just go back to this particular one once again, the genius sequence. So the four keys you see on that is life's work, is evolution. So as soon as we sort of drop from our mother's womb, the first thing we want to do is connect with the earth. We get onto our path of evolution. There is no time to waste here. And these two are programming partners. What does that mean? That means that whatever is the constitution of this particular key, let's say we have the three feminine, three half lines and three full lines in a particular order, this particular programming partner is a correspondence to that, which means that it is like a mirror image. So you have to become that, because in order to be complete, you have to have that both meshed together so you can find your radiance. Your radiance key is your happy place. This is where you feel like, okay, I'm here, I'm somebody. And the information that you get over there will give you an understanding of this. Now, in my case, 21, the shadow of this is control. The gift of this is authority. And the siddhi of this particular one is valor. Now, and when I study this and I contemplate on this particular key, you suddenly realize how this whole control business, why is it out there, how it plays out. And the thing you understand is that your gift is authority. You don't have to control anything. That authority is already present in your being, in your DNA. And so if you can just sort of sink into that, sort of settle into that place of authority which is yours, uniquely yours, then you don't have to control anything or anybody to be able to do your life's work, which is the one over here. So this is very beautifully tuned in. It's almost like, I want to say, interlocking puzzle. And as you open and uncover one, it's like the next one is just waiting to be unlocked. And that is the process that step by step, we move through. I'm going to stop this one here and let's see. Anybody has any questions at this time?
Yeah, I was just wondering whether this profile would transmigrate with us to the next incarnation.
My understanding is not so, but I'll tell you, I'll go back a step into my spiritual response therapy study, SRT, where we learn that the soul, when the soul decides it's going to incarnate on planet Earth as human person, the soul decides as to where I will be born, when I will be born, through what lineage am I going to be born, what will be my bloodline, because a lot of our genes come from that. We sort of harvest from that what culture I will be born in. Now, all that is a decision that is made by the soul. And as we choose our parentage and as we choose our location and time of birth, the gene keys are formulated, because that is, this, okay, I need to take all this with me in order to be able to do. So to answer your question, Arun, I'm not sure that there is a direct one-on-one correspondence, but there is, when we look at the overall picture, because our genes are not only individual to us, it has a history, ancestral history, and it has also a connection to the collective. Now, by virtue of being present on Earth at this time, we are connecting with all of humanity. So whatever we do is also rippling out to the rest of it.
I'm trying to mesh this with the karmic baggage.
Yeah.
What we call prarabdha karma, which is that subset of our accumulated karma that we have to exhaust in this lifetime.
Right. So this
to be able to start, we have to come with the combination of siddhis and shadows and gifts, and our profile has to match with that particular combination of karmas that we need to be able to exhaust in this lifetime.
Yeah, that is what the profile is based on. And all those shadow sectors of the profile of the keys are the karmic ones that still need to be resolved. So when we say karma, we are usually, there is good karma, which is of course belongs to the gift and the siddhi area, but it is the karmic part that is getting in the way that we have to resolve, right? So that is the contemplation on the shadows that helps us to go in there and say, okay, I understand this now. The lesson that I'm supposed to learn from this, I got it. Let's move.
Very fascinating.
It's extremely fascinating. And the other thing I also want to add with this is that this is self-study. this is not therapy. This is not something that somebody can teach you. Somebody.
It's a self-knowledge.
It's self-knowledge, but there is a body of knowledge present. It's like the software is there. And, somebody like me who is maybe, 1.5 steps ahead of the rest can only say, oh, come this way it works. But I can't teach this to you. And so there is, let me show the book. This is the book that supports this. It's about 600 odd pages. Yeah, 550 pages. So this has got there are like 6 or 8 pages on every key. So whatever is your key or whatever, and you can use this book as an oracle too. Just at random ask a question and open it and see what it says. But you can also go in and find out in much greater depth what the key is saying. And what Richard says is that all you have to do is become aware of this, because now we have these words which is telling us, look, one of your shadows is control. And I'm sitting there and going, well, that's no surprise. I know that I have this huge control issue. Right. So then you realize, okay, but this is the reason why you feel the need to do it is because you haven't still figured out how to express the gift and the siddhi. So now you can sort of change and not get into that control anymore and allow the rest. And it is only through just by being there, by accepting it, by acknowledging it, that one is able to move through that. And that's the whole process, contemplation. That is the only process.
So the author did mention about you are able to alter your DNA through the contemplation.
Does he say that though? Yes. You're not altering your DNA. The DNA continues.
That you can change your DNA.
The vibration. You can change it, which frequency you're vibrating at. That you can change. Yeah.
So you're talking about the karmic and everything that what Malabika was talking about, the SRT. It's still the self. It's almost like for this body of knowledge, I study a little bit ever since that she showed me the email. I just dive into it. I have never been so interested in other body of work than SRT as well. But then I really felt this is the path of a self-realization as well.
Yeah. Primarily, it's a path of a self-realization. And here is the tools. It's like, okay, here is a software. You want to get it and play with it and see where it takes you. But right now, what I want to do is just speak a little bit to, if you were really interested in proceeding with this, how would you go about it? And these are a few things I want to say. One is that I would definitely suggest you get the book. I bought it from Amazon for about $20, so it's not a hugely expensive thing. But you can also download the audio part of it from the website. I believe he has an audio. I haven't downloaded it. But then he will tell you that is the first thing is that when he says get started is, and it's called the golden path. The golden path is the journey from the genius sequence to the Venus sequence to the Pearl sequence. And the first part of the journey, the genius sequence, it costs about $100 to sign into. And in exchange, what you get, besides all this knowledge about, what is in the book, these are your four keys. In addition to that, there are meditations, there is explanation, there are exercises, there is a whole bunch. I think the first thing has got about 13 lessons, which comprise meditation, all kinds. It's loaded with good stuff. And Richard always says, take your time. There is no rush. You have the rest of your life ahead of you. You are able to do this step by step because it's your own time. So once we complete that first part, we move to the second part, which is the Venus sequence. Now, and then of course, and that has got a price to it also. It's something like maybe $200 or something like that. And then you get that and move to the next one. So this is how you do it. So that is directly from the website, the book, and it's all there. In addition, Richard has a wealth of information. He's got a gene YouTube, and he's prolific. He talks and creates programs. You can just sit and listen to them, and he's beautiful. He speaks well. He's a poet. Is absolutely delightful. The third thing which I want to say, which is my little bit over here, is that since the time I did my last presentation, which was way back in December, we started a study circle. Now, sometimes it can be very heavy. It's not easy to pursue some of these things on our own. The study circle is essentially coming together and studying. So we are all, we've completed the life's work key, we've completed the evolution key, now we are in the radiance key. So all of us study it, have our own experience with it. We come back and we share and we tell each other, and then we get deeper insights. Oh, that's what you got. I didn't get that, and so on and so forth. So I intend to start another study circle so we can start right at the beginning, probably from May onwards. So if anybody is interested, you can go ahead. The other thing, I'm also registered for a guides program. So if anybody is interested, they could sign up for one session where I could walk them through their own profile as much as I can, do. I usually study the profile in advance, and then I can walk them through. And if you set up a session with me to do that, you will automatically become a member of the study circle. So that's the way to progress through this. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we can spend a few more minutes if there are any questions, any details you'd like to know.
So, Malabika, your study group, can you explain a little bit about the length and the time?
Oh, the current group, which of course I don't want to expand that because we are already been doing this we started in January. The new one, I haven't actually set the days and times precisely because, if it is, if I have people from different parts of the world, I want to make sure that it's conducive. So we might have to have more than one study group. So, Leanne, if you're interested, propose a time and place and day of the week. We've been meeting once a month on the third Thursdays during morning my time, but it doesn't have to be morning. It can be evening or night. Linda, I'd love to have you in the study group. But the first thing to do, folks, is go get your profile. Download your profile, because that in itself will interest you. And, Richard has got stuff on his website, like he'll give you a little audio on your life's work. And so it's sort of, you start getting a feel of what it is like. Thanks, Oli.
Very fascinating, Mala. Thank you for sharing.
Absolutely. It is very fascinating. By the way, I did a 4-month retreat for that first one. And then currently I am enrolled in the 6-month retreat, which is the Venus. It's coming to an end of this month. the deeper you get, you realize that literally how through your life it has unfolded, and it has things that are still sitting there like shadows, how that, because we have not dealt with that, and a lot of the times we've run away from that, it has really become like solid. This is the time, like you can move it. And I will tell you, in these 10 months since June when I started, I had to really struggle the first 2 months, because everything else that I have studied up to now had a curriculum, had a timeline, had like you had to do this, cross these hoops, and then at the end of it, this great feeling of, I have achieved this, I got a certificate or whatever it is. This one is like, no, here is the sea, here is your boat, here is the map, go. So, you kind of like, how do I go? You talk to yourself, get inside, ask your, higher intelligence and move through. It took me a couple of months, and then I suddenly realized that you don't have to do anything. You just have to become aware. You have to become very, very deeply aware and contemplate. And this whole process of being aware, look, this is my shadow. It's doing me no good. Why am I still holding on to it? And when you go in and think about it, you start getting answers. And then you suddenly realize, 2 weeks down the road, oh, my reactions to that has changed. This thing about restraint. I used to be like, oh, let me do everything for everybody, getting involved. No, no, no. No need. Sit back. Restrain. And in the process, you end up contributing more than you would have if you were out there, trying to do this. And this is an experience which to me, this is very good. I like this actually. I can just chill, do my thing. And the effectiveness, I'm noticing how it is affecting my work with my clients, as with my students. It's like I can go much deeper just because this is becoming a part of me, because those shadow areas are, layer by layer dissolving. It's absolutely
actually the basis of generating the profile, which is your time of birth, your date of birth, and your place of birth.
Yeah.
It seems to match exactly with the way they come up with your horoscope.
Exactly. So that's what I mean, this is a synthesis of many such. So that, because you've decided to come here, so just like the natal chart. Now, things like the natal chart, the human design, and several others, these, including the DNA, your genome, we have come away with the idea that these are given. I am bounded. Even today, modern medicine thinks we are bounded by our genes that we have inherited. And this one is telling you, no, 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 not so. The genes are there, but you can, modify the vibrations and how it affects you, and alter it however that is affecting. Go ahead, Gautam.
Couple of points, it will be interesting because you've got multiple areas of exposure. If you just put down, maybe not professionally, just for friends, the commonality between so many different subjects which comes through with what you just said. Like there are 32 chromosomes, but 64 of these hexagrams. And if you can just put it down and look, these are the common areas, guys. It's just a matter of interest, number one. Number two, for some of us, it's pretty scary when you're saying you've gone through 4 months of a retreat. But if you could conduct a retreat for some friends,
I'd love to.
We could sort of work out whether it's once a week or once a fortnight, or you give us some, that hand-holding exercise which you said you're 1.5 steps ahead, and you lead us. So that would make it less daunting to take the exercise. And the third area is the two subjects which have emerged in the last 10 years. epigenetics, which says you can change your genes with your thought, and neuroplasticity, which says you can change your brain cells with your thought.
Exactly.
So neuroplasticity and epigenetics are two new subjects, absolutely brand new subjects, which have arrived without any kind of notice beforehand, saying that the power of the mind and it all emanating from the 2002 experiments of Richard Davidson in with Wisconsin Madison with the Dalai Lama's help, that the mind can do wonderful things. So there are so many things now which are coming into a convergence mode, which defies that earlier, mode of Newton, which is said that without evidence, we are not going to consider it as science. We're not going to consider it as authentic. And that's gone. That's completely gone. I mean, that served a purpose. It was definitely took away so much of superstition from the Middle Ages and removed it. But it had served its purpose, and today it's a different world. And first thing is, if you put down just for the fun of it, that look, guys, here are the commonalities.
Absolutely. Thank you, Gautam. I'd love to do that. I'll get started on it right away. Linda, go ahead. You have to unmute yourself.
Yes, I just wanted to say this is right on time for me because I've been my shadow side. I didn't know a lot about it, and it's been coming up for the last month, and I've been getting into it. And I asked one of my meditation, I want to know more about this. And then this came up. I want you to see, I got my book already. And I really like this because it's more holistic. I'm familiar with human design and a lot of other modalities, but this, for me, the feeling I'm getting intuitively is this is a very holistic, real holistic. It's bringing everything together into the oneness with source. So I'm really looking forward to starting the program. I'm a little not sure what I'm doing at the beginning, but I did go to the website and I do have the books. And I just want to thank you so much because this is really a part of my spiritual journey.
Absolutely. And I would love to work with you, Linda. We've worked together before and it's great fun.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right, couple more minutes, folks. Anybody else with any comment or question or observation?
I have one, Mala.
Yeah, go ahead, Christy.
If you do something once a month, that sounds like perfect timing for me. I just wanted to add that. So thank you.
You are welcome. Okay, that's it then. Jerry, are you still there? I don't see you, but I'm hoping you're still there.
I am still there, Mala. It has been fascinating listening to this. And as I posted in my chat, it's opened a new window for me to think about and research a little bit. I shall be in touch with you.
I look forward. And I'm trying to remember, who is this galaxy person? Oh, I remember now. Sandra. Alessandra, that's you, right? Thank you for coming.
Thank you, Malabika.
Thank you, Lingan. Such fun. We're going to, it's going to be fun to do some of this together.
Yeah.
And I thank you all, especially Monica. Thanks for staying up late to do this. And Sharon. Hello, Sharon. Welcome. Nice to have you on this call. And with that, Gavin, you haven't spoken. How are you doing?
Yeah, this is, I'm resonating very strongly with this. Even before the Zoom meeting that you scheduled, it's been, I knew that it was something that I would be interested in. And I downloaded I got my free profile a couple of days ago. And you talk about just that observation, right?
Contemplation.
And contemplation, and to just like see and read through the parts of the genius, the love and prosperity was those were all things that have been kind of moving around, and I recognize it, but to be able to put a word to it, to define it, changes it.
Like you can sink your teeth in it.
Yeah. It makes it, it just that definition, defining it, it makes it real and
lovely.
Able to move through it. Yeah. This will be fun.
Thank you so much.
Thanks, Malabika.
All right, my friends, I'm going to say thank you and bye-bye. I'll be in touch with all of you. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mala.
Wait, I have a question here from Jagrup asking how does the contemplation part work? I might send you a link to a particular reading, but if you want, we can have a chat. And Jagrup, just give me send me a message and we can set something up.